So, have you ever stopped to think about where the rules that affect your daily life actually come from? We're all taught that the U.S. government has three branches, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a powerful, often unseen fourth branch that pretty much shapes modern America. Let's dig in.
You remember this from school for sure. We get this really clean, simple picture of American government. You've got Congress making the laws, the president carrying them out, and the courts settling disputes about them. It's a nice, neat triangle of power, just like the founders drew it up.
Oh, not even close. The thing is, that simple model we all learned about, it crashed head-on into a massive problem, the real world. And the solution to that problem? Well, it changed absolutely everything about how Washington works.
Okay, so let's start with that classic foundation, the three-branch ideal. This was the blueprint, the core idea behind the U.S. Constitution.
And the thinking behind it was honestly brilliant. By splitting up the power, no single part of the government could ever get too dominant. It was this intricate system of checks and balances, basically a permanent safeguard for freedom. That was the theory anyway, a kind of constitutional straitjacket designed to keep power in check.
But as the United States exploded from this small, mostly agricultural nation into a full-blown industrial powerhouse, that beautiful theory started to show some serious cracks. It was buckling under the weight of a new, way more complex reality.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Suddenly you have these gigantic railroad networks spanning the entire continent, super complex financial markets, newfangled technologies like radio popping up, and all sorts of industrial safety issues. Do we really expect a group of congressmen to become overnight experts on every single one of these things and write hyper-detailed laws to govern them? The answer was a pretty obvious no.
And this quote right here just nails it. This is the core issue.
The founders' really elegant design was meeting the messy, complicated, fast-moving reality of the 20th century. Something had to give, and it wasn't going to be reality. The government had to change.
So what was the big adaptation? What did the government do? Well, it created something entirely new, something that didn't fit neatly into any of those three little boxes: the regulatory agency.
In 1946, the Federal Administrative Procedure Act kind of made this new world official. The way it works is, Congress passes a really broad law, something like, make sure the railroads are fair, and then it creates an agency full of experts to figure out all the nitty-gritty details. This whole collection of agencies is what we now call the administrative state.
And here's the really wild part. What makes these agencies so unique, they totally break that separation of powers mold. They actually combine the powers of all three branches. First, they write detailed regulations, which for all intents and purposes function just like laws. That's a legislative power, right? Then, they investigate and enforce those regulations. That's an executive power. And finally, they hold their own hearings and judge disputes over their rules, which is a judicial power.
So when you fuse all these powers together into one body, you create this incredibly potent and unique entity. It's not in the original Constitution, but it's now a central player in modern government. This is the fourth branch.
Now, as you can probably imagine, creating a whole new center of power in Washington didn't go down without a fight. Not at all. It led to this massive constitutional showdown that went on for decades.
This was the billion-dollar question. I mean, Article 1 of the Constitution seems crystal clear. It says all legislative powers belong to Congress. So how in the world can Congress just hand that fundamental power over to some agency? This question sparked a gigantic legal and political war.
So this huge fight basically boils down to these two competing ideas. On one side, you've got the strict old-school rule, the non-delegation doctrine. The logic is simple. The people gave lawmaking power to Congress, and Congress can't just pass that responsibility to someone else. Period. Full stop. But on the other side, driven by practical needs, you have the intelligible principle. This idea is way more flexible. It says, okay, look, Congress can delegate, but, and this is the key part, it has to give the agency a clear standard, a guiding principle to follow.
And you can literally watch this battle play out over history. It all starts back in 1887 with the ICC, which was created to tame the all-powerful railroad tycoons. But the real fireworks went off during the Great Depression. In 1935, the Supreme Court, sticking to that old non-delegation rule, struck down key parts of FDR's New Deal. Famously, in a case involving, get this, sick chickens. The court said Congress gave away its power without any clear standards. But then, just 2 years later, the court completely reverses course, starts approving these broad delegations of power, and basically paves the way for the government we know today.
So after all that constitutional drama, where did we land? Well, the fourth branch isn't just a theory anymore. It is a massive, powerful, and very, very real part of our government.
Seriously, from the air we breathe to the food we eat to the money we invest, its influence is everywhere. These agencies create thousands and thousands of pages of rules every single year that have the full force of law, touching basically every corner of our economy and our society.
And we're not talking about some obscure government offices here. These are household names. The EPA, they set the standards for clean air and water. The SEC, they're the cops on Wall Street. The FCC regulates your internet, your phone, your TV. The FDA makes sure your food and medicine are safe. And the FTC, they're there to protect you from scams and unfair business practices. This is the fourth branch in action every single day.
And how specific are those instructions from Congress? Well, often they are incredibly vague. This is that intelligible principle in the real world. For instance, the law that created the FCC just gave it this massive job of regulating broadcasting based on the standard of public convenience, interest, or necessity. What on earth does that mean in practice? Well, it's up to the experts at the agency to decide.
And that leaves us with the giant question that people are still fiercely debating today. Is this fourth branch a brilliant, necessary adaptation that allows experts to solve complex modern problems? Or is it an unaccountable, unelected power center that writes our laws without ever having to face the voters? There is no easy answer. But one thing is for sure. Understanding this hidden branch of government is absolutely critical to understanding how power really works in America today.